Hi, happy summer, guys. Congratulations on making it through one of, if not the most difficult school year ever. My name is Crystal Radke, and I'm very excited to be part of Teacher Road Trip. If you are on Teachers Pay Teachers, then you might know me through Creative and Kinder, and online I write the website creativeandlife.com and manage all of our social media sites for Creative and Life, and that's at Creative with a K-I-N-L-I-F-E. So I am very excited to come to talk to you about something that you might not be ready to discuss, but that's okay. Come back and listen later or take some notes and put them in a safe place for back to school. But I wanted to share with you my favorite tips for back to school. I love back to school time, meeting new students, but it's a lot of work. And I hope you're taking this summer to unplug and refill your cup and do all things for you, and then setting really good boundaries for yourself before you launch into the new school year. But we're going to talk today about back to school tips that hopefully will be something new that will help you start the new year strong. So, before school starts, we have Meet the Teacher, and I always prep for the maximum amount of students that I can have. It doesn't matter how many they give me on the morning before Meet the Teacher. If they give me 21, but I know I can have 24, I'm going to go ahead and prep for probably 25. And what does that look like? So I'm going to put together the parent packet. It's going to have everything parents are going to need from the school and then from me personally. And I put those in file folders for every student, and I make extras because you might get student added to your roster for Meet the Teacher. You can get a student that's added to your roster the first day of school, which always happens, or at any point in the school year. So whatever I don't use at that point, I'll put back in a file for back to school and have it ready for when I happen to get a new student throughout the year, which, let's be honest, happens a lot. So I have that parent packet. I also have all of their nameplates laminated with their names written on it as if it's been given to me, and their cubby tags and their name tags. Now, I laminate all of these. I prefer my personal laminator because it's a hard laminate with the Scotch brand, but you can use whatever, obviously. But I write everything in permanent marker, and then I have my marker and a magic eraser in a Meet the Teacher night tub and a first day of school tub, which I put on top of the cubbies. And here's why. For one, all of these resources that I've just named off, besides the name tag, the name plate for where they're going to sit, and the name, I guess, the cubby tag, they have Velcro on them. I just get the circles, the small circles, and put the Velcro on the back. And that way, I can easily move them. And that's important for a couple of reasons. When it comes to cubbies, sometimes kids can't reach the top cubbies. So if that's the case, I'll just switch them out with somebody else, and I just Velcro it, move it, done. Another reason is because often the way we get the names on the roster is not who they go by. They go by a different name, and that's okay. So if, like, for instance, my son is Joseph, I might say, oh, we don't call him Joseph. He goes by Joe, J-O-E. I'm like, okay. So when I meet a student, it's really important we're making that connection that I ask what their name is, what they prefer to be called, how to correctly spell it, and then I say it to them to make sure that I'm saying their name correctly. Names are really important part of our identity, so it is important that we get that part right. So if I had put Joseph on the cubby tag and the name tag, and it's supposed to be Joe, that is such an easy fix. I just go in that bucket, I grab my magic eraser, and there's going to be a construction person right outside my window right now. So sorry. But I'm going to go ahead and erase it right then and there, write the correct name, and then put it where it goes. So that student knows that I'm listening, I care about the change, and I'm making it immediately. It also makes things easy for the first day of school when I get new students in. I'm not rushing here or there to pick up things that I need. I'm not just a hot mess. I've got everything that I need in one spot, and that's really important. So if somebody brings a new student down to my door and they're like, oh, this is Grace Crenshaw. I don't know, made it up. I'm like, it's so nice to meet you, Grace. And immediately I can wait for the construction guy outside the door. Sorry. Immediately I can go ahead and pull that packet to give to Grace's family and say, if you could please read through this, sign the copies, give them back to me as soon as possible. That would be so great. And then let me know if you have a question. And then I say, Grace, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm going to show you where your cubby is and where you get to choose your seat. So I go ahead and write her name on her name tag. She puts it on. She doesn't have to wait for me to greet all the other kids. She already has a name tag. And then I put her name quickly on her cubby tag. And even if I don't write it with my best handwriting, I can go back and change that later. It's not a big deal. Give her a cubby, and then that first day of school, or for Meet the Teacher, they'll actually take their name plates and go put it on a table so they know where they're going to sit. Now, I let them choose that initially. And again, there's that little Velcro piece at every seat. So it makes it so easy for me to move students around throughout the year because I just pull it up, move them. I don't have to worry about the stickiness from tape. If for some reason they get super tired, it's very easy to make another one. So Velcro is definitely the way to go. So for Meet the Teacher, back to school, we've got that organization center with all those extra copies and things that I need right away, because I don't ever want a child to come into my classroom and feel like I've forgotten about them or that they are not important because I just said, just find a place. And I'm just all over the place. And then I forget to give them a name tag. And then I forget their name. And, you know, I don't want them to feel like that. And it's such an easy fix. So that is something that I do to help prepare. Now, I will tell you that during especially the first 2 weeks of school, I focus on building classroom community. I focus on all of those transitions and procedures and rules and expectations. And I don't focus on academics. I always told my students, my job is to keep you safe. Your job is to help me keep you safe. So that's something that I want to talk about every single day. And so we're going to read all of these character books about what it means to follow rules, what it means to be a good friend, what it means to take care of our environment, what it means to be a family, because some kids don't really understand what a real family dynamic is. And so what it means to take care of one another, what it means to care about each other. And so creating that safe environment is priority one, because the more safe I can help a child feel, the more connected I can be to a child, the more successful they'll be, not just emotionally, but academically throughout the year. If you come in guns a-blazing and you're like, okay, we're going to learn these 5 letters and this and this and that and that, and meanwhile, by the way, you got to stand in the square, put your feet together, put a bubble in your mouth. Don't do that. Sit down. That's not how we do that. Da, 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 da. I mean, it's overwhelming. It's just too much information. And so I try really hard to space those things out and to understand that children get overloaded just like adults do. I remember the first time I attended I Teach K as an educator, not as a presenter, but just as a teacher. And I went to all of these sessions, took a gazillion pages of notes. And I remember when I got home, my husband said, well, how was it? I'm like, it was amazing. I can't wait to do all of these things and change the world and blah, blah, blah. And he said, well, what did you learn? And I said, I don't know, because it was so much information and my brain is like, bleh. And so I think for kids, it's the same way. And it doesn't matter what grade you teach. It's just so much information to process, but especially for our young learners. You know, They come in, they're super pumped. They probably have new tennis shoes. They have a new backpack and lunchbox. They might have gotten to ride the cool yellow school bus, which is a super cool thing for a 5-year-old. And they're excited. And what do they come to do? Or what do they think they're going to do that first week of school, that first day of school? They think they're going to come in and they're going to play. They're going to get to play. And guess what? We spend the whole day saying, this is how you stand in the square. This is how you line up. This is how you put your hands behind your back. Now you need to put a bubble in your mouth. We're going to walk in a straight line. Put your feet down on the floor. Pull up your chair. Push in your chair. Blah, blah, blah. All of these things. And by the end of the day, their brains are about to explode because they're overstimulated. It's just a lot of information. So I try to follow a simple method, and it makes lesson planning super easy for the first week of school. I'm going to teach a procedure, then I'm going to model a procedure, then we're going to practice a procedure, and then we're going to play within that procedure. Okay, so, and then we do it all over again. So I'll write down all of the procedures and things that they need to learn that are most important. Of course, we're going to teach them a million different things, but that are most important for the first week of school. I'll make a huge list. And then I just kind of put it in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and I break it up because I don't want them to be overwhelmed. I know I've been in faculty meetings where we have been given information in the course of 45 minutes, and I leave there and I go back to my classroom and I just need to decompress. I'm just like, whoa, what happened? Well, I can't imagine what it's like to be a 5-year-old in that situation, because I have the vocabulary to say, I can't take in any more information. I need some downtime. I can say I'm overwhelmed. This is too much. But our young learners, they don't know how to do that. So that's when they might act out emotionally, or they might act out behaviorally. And so we just want to make sure that we're following their lead and really paying attention to their physical body cues, since they don't have the vocabulary yet. And when kids entered my classroom, I just assume they don't know anything, and that's the safest way to be. They don't know how to go to the restroom properly, and you'll be surprised who doesn't know how to flush a toilet or pull up their pants, or who doesn't know how to push in a chair, or who's never used scissors before. I remember when I first started teaching, I would read The Kissing Hand, and then I would have my students cut out a raccoon and glue it to a paper bag to make a Chester puppet. Now, if you do that, I'm totally not saying you shouldn't. I'm just saying at this point now, after doing so much research on what is developmentally appropriate and understanding how to strengthen and grow their fine motor skills, I did it totally backwards. And then I got frustrated and upset when I felt like they weren't listening to me, when their Chesters had no ears, and then glue was everywhere, even though I'm saying dot, dot, not a lot. Developmentally, they haven't went through the stages of learning to know how to do those things. So just have a realistic expectation of no expectation, and then you won't be disappointed. Just knowing that they need to be taught these things. And if you look up developmental teaching for cutting and scissor skills, it doesn't say cut out an animal head. It says you're going to start first with a snipping. So snipping straws, snipping small pieces of cardstock paper, things like that. That is how children learn best when it comes to learning scissor skills. When it comes to handwriting, the only thing academic that I do have kids work on is writing their name initially, as soon as school starts, because I need their name on things. And so I do have them do that. But we also need to understand that handwriting is the highest skill when it comes to fine motor skills. Because if they have not strengthened their tripod grasp, they've never worked with these little muscles, they're going to have a really hard time with handwriting. So we need to be mindful of that when we're putting those tools into their hand. So when I started the school year, I would always start with Pipsqueak markers. They're made by Crayola. No no pencils. Think of a pencil. This is a pen. It's like this big long thing, and we've got this little bitty hand. And it's just like if I were to tell you I want you to stand up right now, and I want you to put your arm all the way out. And I want you to hold it up for 5 minutes. Eventually, your hand's going to go down like this, right? Because it gets heavy. It's the same thing with the pencil with these fingers. If these muscles have not strengthened to where they're not strong enough to hold that pencil, and not just hold that pencil, but correctly and manipulate the pencil to write, eventually this big old pencil is, and they're going to develop a poor grasp. So I always start with Pipsqueak markers. They're this big. I'm trying to think. I have some somewhere because I use them with my 3-year-old. But they're short and they're fat and they're perfect for kids to learn the proper grip. So, and also markers are cool. Not a lot of kids get to write with markers at home. And so the first week of school, as we're learning to write our names and we're just tracing, everyone traces with markers and they think it's the coolest thing in the world. So that's something else that I do. But just be mindful of those things when we're making our plans the first week of school for cutting and gluing and writing and coloring and all of these things that everything we do requires background knowledge. It requires experience. It requires developmental milestones. And if they don't have all of those, it's going to be a real struggle for them. And so take that pressure off of yourself and plan realistic things that they can accomplish successfully. Now, back to the idea of playing. So that first week of school, we're going to teach a procedure. We're going to model it. And what does that look like? Well, that is, okay, boys and girls, when it's time to go to lunch, we're going to line up. And you're going to line up when I call your name. Well, what does that mean to them if they've never done that before? So you're going to give them the words, but then you're going to say, it looks like this. If I said, Mrs. Radke, line up, I'm going to walk, I'm going to find my spot, and I'm going to show them what it looks like. And then they're going to practice. And we did this for everything. Even before lunchtime, we would walk down to the cafeteria, and we would practice walking through the lunch line, carrying our tray with 2 hands, sitting down at a table, putting our legs underneath the table, then picking up our tray, dumping our tray, walking back. Everything that was expected of them, they practiced. They didn't just hear it, they didn't just see it, but they also did it. And if we want them to remember it, that's really how it needs to be done. They need to have that experience to make the connection. So we do the procedures, and then I also throw in things each day, not just how to go to the bathroom, how to go to lunch, how to sit on the carpet, those typical things. But I also put in my lesson plans how to play with Play-Doh. We use Play-Doh all year long. Play-Doh is a great resource for fine motor development, and it absolutely has academic purpose in your classroom. So that's always on the lesson plans for the first week of school. I buy the party bags that have like 12 in them, the little containers, and they're in their individual supply boxes. So I teach them how to open it. It's always harder the first time. How to get out the Play-Doh, how to roll a snake, how to roll it into a ball. I usually switch out the Play-Doh 3 times a year or so. And if you're super cool in the kitchen and can make Play-Doh, that is so awesome. That is not always me. But I do switch out their Play-Doh when it gets really sticky or funky. We get rid of it and get new Play-Doh. So this is perfect for if I have to take a phone call, if I have a child having a meltdown who needs my individual attention, maybe another adult's at the door. I'll say, boys and girls, get out your Play-Doh and I want you to make the first letter of your name. Or I need you to roll out 4 balls. Or I need you to make a happy face. What would your face look like if you were happy? I want you to try to make that with Play-Doh. So I use Play-Doh in a lot of academic centers. So that's on the lesson plans for the first week. I also allow them to explore various manipulatives and then areas in my classroom. And so those are going to be part of my lesson plans the first week. No area of the classroom is open until we've done the teach, model, practice, method, play method. Okay. For example, the first day of school, I usually would open up the classroom library and the home living center. And the second day of school, I would open up the science center and the block center. And I would have different times after I teach them how to use an iPad or whatever it was. I would say, boys and girls, this is what's open, this is what's closed. And they aren't allowed to go into something. Something will not be open until we have followed the correct steps of being taught procedures and also practicing procedures. So they have to do those two things in order to play in an area. Okay? So during the first week of school, it's a whole lot of that. I'm throwing in, some coloring activities. We might even paint with watercolors or playing with puzzles. Very simple, basic things that we are going to do because remember, they probably don't have a lot of stamina at this point. So you're going to read a story and do a brain break and then come talk about how to use this center and then practice it and then play with it. And then you're going to do another song and you're going to do the next thing, the next procedure, and you're going to make your interactive writing chart for it or whatever. And you're just repeating that the entire first week of school because we're setting the grounds of expectations for our classroom for the year. So taking the time to do that is just really important. So for the second week of school, we're going to continue to add expectations. We're going to review every day all the other things very quickly that we've learned. But now we're going to add in centers. Now, centers look different the second week, the first round of centers, because I don't want them to be overwhelmed with, okay, and here's this center tub, and you're going to take this tub 1 to the blue table, and you're going to get it out, and you're going to trace your name, and you're going to color 12 things, and blah, 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 and then you're going to put it all back, and then go put it back where it, like, that's a lot of information. I don't want them to worry about an achievement at the center other than learning the center process. I'm also teaching them how to read the center chart. I am not the teacher that stands up next to the chart and says, okay, Bob and Susie, you're going to table 1. So-and-so and so-and-so, you're going to read to self. So-and-so and so-and-so, you're going here. I'm not doing that after like the third week of school. I want them to be able, when I say it's center time, I want them to read the chart and I want them to go where they're supposed to go. So they can't do that independently unless you've practiced. And it is a lot easier to practice that without them having to learn procedures and to have like an academic achievement. So them procedures and producing something. So it is easier just to focus on the procedures. So for literacy centers, I have all fine motor based centers. What does that mean? That is maybe a snipping activity with, and on my website, creativeandlife.com, I have so many pictures of fine motor activities of things that you can make go into the Dollar Tree. Super simple. Spooning, tonging, nuts and bolts and screws, rainbow writing with their names, what else? Legos, any type of manipulative they're doing with their hands, creating something with, I don't know, Q-tips, putting toothpicks into salt and pepper shakers. I know that sounds dangerous, but I promise it's not. We've done it forever and ever. Using little hole punches, just the hole punch papers. That was my kid's favorite activity. I can only imagine what a parent thought when they brought home this hot blue piece of paper that had a bunch of holes in it, and they're super proud of it. But again, we're doing all of these activities to strengthen that tripod grasp, okay? So the whole purpose of this week of centers is for them to be able to read the chart, to know where things are, to get the materials and take them to the correct location, to take the materials out, play with them, fun, put the materials back into the bucket and put the bucket back where it belongs. If they can get the procedure down, I have won the world. That's all I'm caring about right now. Okay, so the next week when we go into centers, or the next rotation of centers, I actually do a 10-day rotation, but that's a whole nother segment or session. The next round of centers are all based on names. And so I have a ton of hands-on name activities, and I put those in centers after that. And then the third round, we start adding that more academically based procedural. They're going to create something, turn in something, have something to show for, show their learning. So during literacy time, they're doing that. What am I doing? I am walking around the classroom. I am talking to kids. I'm asking questions. I'm checking for understanding. What am I checking for understanding for? I want to make sure that they understand the procedures in place. I want to make sure that they have a good understanding of how to read the chart, where to get resources, how to use resources, how to restore the resources, and then what do we do next? And I'm also making observations, student observations. Who's working well together? And during this time, I'll go ahead and switch up groups because it's fine motor centers. There's no problem. They're play-based centers. There's no problem with them repeating a center twice. It's not a big deal. So if I have two students that I've put together and that is just a terrible idea, I'll switch them the next day. So I'm playing with groups of students because before I get them into an academic center where they need to produce something and work in a collaborative learning environment, I need to make sure that they're with other students who are going to bring out the best in them. So during this time, I'm checking for understanding for the procedure, but I'm also seeing what students work well together, and I'm monitoring their strengths and their weaknesses. And everybody has strengths and everybody has weaknesses. And that's what I'm looking for. So I know how to best support them. So that's going on during literacy center time. During math center time, same thing. We have bigger groups for math center, so it's table-based groups. So again, I'm looking to see, is this table going to work well together? No academic expectation. They're just going to play with the manipulatives that they'll use throughout the entire year. So I'm going to introduce, and this is really good just for learning the correct vocabulary. I'm going to introduce blocks in cubes and tangrams and the science center and Legos and Lincoln Logs and Mobilos and all those types of things that they're going to use for academic centers. Now, when I give this table a tub of cubes, they're not going to use them to measure out a picture or to sort for part, whole, or anything like that they will do in the future. Right now that they're learning that these are cubes, maybe the colors of the cubes, and they're just building things with it. They're just getting familiar with that manipulative to where it's not foreign to them. When I say, okay, boys and girls, in your math bags, I want you to get out your red and yellow cubes, and we're going to use these for our lesson today. They're not going to be like, what's a cube? How does this work? How do you put them together? How do you pull them apart? They're already going to know because they've had time to explore. This is, again, great for me because what am I doing? I'm making sure, did that table read the chart correctly? Do they have the correct math tub? Are they using their resource correctly? Can they tell me what it's called when I ask them? And are they working well together? If they're not working well together, guess what? Tomorrow they might come in and I pick up that Velcro name tag and I go put it somewhere else. And that's totally okay. And they try out another table. And really, during those first 2 weeks, I'm just trying to figure out the best way to set up my classroom to help my kids be successful, because that's what we want, right? So during those first couple of weeks of school, we're reading all the books on community and learning about our emotions and putting names to them. We're practicing everything. We're practicing what it means to apologize. You know, as a parent, I can tell you that when my older kids, and they're adults now, I would just say, tell your sister you're sorry. I'm sorry. But what does that mean? You know, I learned more about it within teaching of what does I'm sorry sound like? What does it look like? What does it feel like? Why do we say we're sorry? What's the purpose of that? And I'm a super fan of conscious discipline. If you're not sure what that is, you can go to consciousdiscipline.com. It took me a while to be able to get rid of my color chart or my clip chart or whatever it was, but best decision I ever made as a teacher. Totally changed the way I thought and taught. And, my older kids we adopted through foster care, and they came from extreme trauma. And I learned a lot going through all the therapies with them, and then implementing conscious discipline into my classroom. And there is something to be said for creating that safe, loving environment for kids to come into and thrive. We want to create a space that they want to be in. We want to create a space that they feel safe in. And sometimes your space is their happiest space. And sometimes your space is their safest space. And so we just need to remember to follow their lead and to see when they are starting to shut down. I can't tell you how many times I've stopped in the middle of centers, in the middle of a story, and said, okay, boys and girls, it's time for a brain break. I can tell that we need one, so we will. And that's okay. That is okay. I'm not doing it in the middle of a test, but I am watching my class, and I can tell when they're done. And as an adult, I know when I'm done. You might be done listening to me now, and you might be on Facebook on your phone, or you might be doodling or whatever. You're going to do whatever you want to do, and it's the same thing for them. They're going to go somewhere else, and I want them to be present in my classroom. So I work really hard to build that community and to build that connection with my kids. And something else that I'll end with this is working with parents. I believe that you should work on a deposit and withdrawal method. What does that mean? So before school starts, I call parents and I say, hi, my name is Crystal Radke, and I'm so excited to be your child's kindergarten teacher this year. I look forward to working with you for the success of your child, and I know that they're just going to love coming to school. So I'm already planting that seed that we're in this together. This isn't me against you. It's us together working for the success of your child. And then the first week of school, I call every single parent, and I tell them what great things that they're doing, what I've noticed. It can be a small thing. I just wanted you to know that I saw Lucy on the playground and her friend fell, and she went and picked her up and gave her a hug and asked her if she was okay. And I'm just so glad Lucy's in my classroom because she is a really good example of being a positive friend. And so I'm depositing those things into our relationship account. I don't ever want to be the person that only gives them the bad news. I can tell you with my own children, my older children, that did come from traumatic places, they were very hard. My boys especially had ADD or ADHD and ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, and that's a pretty extreme diagnosis. They have PTSD just because of all the abuse and neglect they had went through before we started fostering them and later adopting them. So it's hard being the parent on the other end of that to get the phone calls that say, oh, we had to restrain your child, or your kid threw a chair, or they did this today. Of course, that's an extreme scenario, but you don't ever want that to be the first time you've had to call a parent. So I really encourage you, every child has good in them. I do not believe that a child wakes up and says, I'm going to go to school and rock her world. They want to make us happy. They want to do good. Sometimes they just don't have the coping skills or strategies yet to know how. So, if we want them to be successful, we need everyone on board. So I encourage you to make good deposits. So when you call and you have to make a withdrawal and say, I just want you to know that Susie really struggled today, and this is what I observed, and this is my recommendation moving forward. I'd also love to know if this is something you've seen at home. How can we work together to help her work on the goal of being successful at whatever. And so they don't feel like, they don't take it as personal because they know that they're working with you and not coming from a place of judgment, which is really hard when you're a parent of a child who struggles. And I can say that from personal experience. Anytime I saw the school number, I didn't think they're calling because my kid's sick. I thought they're calling because my kid has a behavioral issue, and my heart would just drop to the floor. But, when it wasn't that, that was a good day. And so just be mindful of those things. And anyways, I got off on a side tangent, but I have a big heart for kids who come from trauma, and we're seeing more and more of that. My youngest of the bigs is on the spectrum, so those kids, I understand all of those things, and it's hard to be the teacher, but it's also hard to be the parent. And so I just really want to encourage you to not take things personally. I saw a teacher once that had a note on her computer that said their behavior is happening in front of you. It's not happening to you. So, and that's so true, that it's not because of you, and it's not a personal attack to you. It's just happening in front of you. And so that's why I believe so strongly in taking those first few weeks to build classroom community and lay that as the foundation of our classroom. Because when that is strong, everything else comes easy. The academics, to me, is the easy part. When we can create that relationship, then we just begin to fly together. So I hope that is encouraging to you. I hope you got a few back to school tips. You can always email me at crystal@creativeandlife.com. I do professional development. I offer it for conferences or school districts all over the United States and beyond. I am happy to travel wherever. I do work only with pre-K and kindergarten teachers, though. So if that's you, you're my people, and I would love to support you. If that's not you and you would like to email me still questions, I am still here for you. So thank you for everything you do for kids. Thank you for enduring a difficult year and going above and beyond times 1,000,000. Thank you for showing up every day, and thank you for being enough. I hope you enjoyed this session. Again, my name is Crystal Radke. You can find me at Creative in Life. I hope you live every minute of this summer for yourself, fill your cup, and start the new year fresh. Bye, guys.